guitarist, vocalist, songwriter, one of the frontmen of the Allman Betts band, Devon Allman. Thank you so much for joining us for BMG's Rapid Fire today. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, BMG Records. It's a pleasure.
It's our pleasure. Really excited. So this is really about authenticity and speed, and you can answer with the first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, cool. So my first question is that you were born in Texas and then you grew up between Tennessee and St. Louis, Missouri. And I want to know how these places, these different places have influenced your musical sound.
Wow. I mean, growing up in Texas, Texas was, there. I grew up in Corpus Christi. There was a radio station called C101. And I just remember out of all of my youth, that station had the most diversity in rock because they would play everything literally from Jimmy Buffett to Metallica. And I thought that was so cool that they didn't just play only classic rock or only soft rock, yacht rock, whatever, you know, the spectrum was really wide. So, and the reason I dug that is because it really opened the doors, like so many different kind of styles of rock and roll and different eras, and they played older stuff and modern.
I feel like I can hear that in your music now, even that there's so many different influences and so many different kind of genres that come together. So that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
I read in your bio that you started playing music when you were really young already. And I feel like music can be just as magical as falling in love. So I want to know if you remember the very first or the very moment that you fell in love with music and you knew that's it, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was two. It was kind of the first time that I really felt a surge of energy and power and emotion from a song on the radio, and when I saw my first concert. So both of those again were in my early years in the 70s in Corpus Christi. I was 5 years old. Every Saturday morning we would cross the bridge over into Padre Island National Seashore, go to the beach. We went to the beach every weekend because nobody had any money and the beach was free. So I remember I was short enough to lay on the back panel behind the back seat where the speakers are.
Yeah.
Right between the panel and the glass. Not the safest place to but this was the 70s, right?
So right at home, but you know.
But I could put my ear right on the speaker and it would just kind of like vibrate, and it was magical to feel the hot Texas sun and hear Jerry Rafferty's Baker Street. That saxophone was so captivating. Aerosmith, the Stones. That was the first. I knew I loved music when I felt those feelings. And a few years later, age 9, my neighbors, they were super cool. They still come to my concerts in our t-shirts and you know,
Yeah.
like, yeah, still to this day, like all these years later, they took me to see Cheap Trick. So
yes, love it.
when I saw like my first rock concert, so the first time I heard it, I knew I loved it and that it was a real love affair. And you're very right about that feeling being very, very akin to like when you fall in love. And then when I knew I wanted to be a part of it was when I saw that first concert.
Wow, that sounds very powerful. I also read that you were raised by your mother before you met your father when you were 16. What is the most valuable lesson that you learned from your mother?
Wow. You know, she kind of taught it to me without overtly stating it. She kind of led by example. And the thing that I really learned from her, because she really came from nothing, you know, and then she married my dad and was riding in limos and being handed money to go shop. And like, it was a totally different lifestyle change for my 21-year-old mother, going from Corpus Christi, Texas to, you know, shopping in New York City. Like it was unheard of.
Yeah.
It was literally like a Pretty Woman kind of like, you know,
kind of deal. Yeah.
and then, you know, my mom was my dad's first wife, and she was there when Dwayne Allman was killed on the motorcycle. And at that point, that their relationship, my dad was just like, he was so distraught. It was gone. So, but when they divorced, she could have taken him like to the cleaners, and she didn't. She started from scratch. So like, I really learned going through those lean years with her as a youngster, and watching every year she bettered herself, better apartment, better car, better job. Like, she worked her ass off. Um, she taught me that no one can take away your work ethic.
Wow. Very valuable lesson. I agree with
Yeah.
that. You met your dad when you were 16 and you went on tour with your dad also. What is your favorite memory of that tour? And I know that's a big question because there's probably many, but do you have like a specific moment?
I was in the backstage area, and they were playing a concert, the Allman Brothers Band, and I was singing along. Like, I'm like eating M&Ms and singing along. I'm 17, and Dickie Betts' wife heard me and told Dickie, "You need to listen to him sing,"
Oh, wow.
which was so sweet. And eventually, Dickie heard me sing, and on the last night of the tour, Dickie, not my dad, said, "We're going to bring Devon Allman out here to sing." I was 17, and it was sold out. It was Midnight Rider. I was scared shitless, and I wasn't even prepared. They didn't even tell me before the show.
Wow.
I'm watching the concert on the side of the stage, and they announced me.
Whoa, they just threw you in the deep end like that. Wow. But maybe that's the way to do it. Yeah.
Luckily, I didn't have enough time to like really get that freaked out. I mean, I was kind of more freaked out after, but luckily I did good. I got a standing O, and it wasn't like, any kind of ego trip, but it was just like the sharing of that energy was like, that is so sacred that, that was my best memory, because I knew right then, when I saw Cheap Trick at age 9, I knew I would love to be a part of it. When I was 17 and played with the Allman Brothers, I knew I had to be a part of it.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds like just like throwing you in like that. But maybe that's why it was also so special, because you weren't prepared, but then it felt so powerful and people loved it. So it's a good initiation of your music career, I would say. Wow. And I also know that you met Barry Oakley and Dwayne Betts at the Dreams Tour in 1989, right? And now you're playing in a band together, which is so cool all these years later. If you could name a characteristic of your friendship that you feel like hasn't changed since you were young guys on this tour with the Allman Brothers, is there something that still is kind of like the same?
Back then, the age difference was considerable. But, the one thing about, like, I always admired Dwayne, and his presence and his, I don't know, just his vibe. It always, it always attracted me as like, man, I like this kid, and now obviously, like I said, it's not much of an age difference at all. And then with Barry, we were just like kindred spirits, man. Like, I would turn him on to The Cure, and he would turn me on to like, kind of offbeat Elvis Costello records and stuff. And we really were simpatico, as the term goes. We were really thick as thieves really quick. I love Barry and Dwayne like truly my own brothers.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's so beautiful that you guys found your way to now have your own band. Being on tour with your parents and being so young at the time also, what advice would you give your younger self, knowing what you know about the music industry and about your life experience right now? What would you want your younger self to know?
You're a product of your failures. You're a product of your finding your way. So I don't have any regrets, but if there was any wisdom I could kind of impart upon myself, it would be to just let go and do everything with feeling, and believe in your solitary voice, because it's your own, and it's not like anyone else's.
Yeah, very good advice. Do you remember the first album that you ever purchased?
I was 10, it was fifth grade. I had fallen in love with Iron Maiden.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that was the first one I paid for with my own money because like I put stuff in a garage sale so I could like get the money to go buy this Iron Maiden record.
Oh yeah, that's a good choice. And it feels so different when you buy with your own money, I feel like. My first album choice was very questionable, so you made a better choice than I did. So if we stay with this like sweet feeling of nostalgia for a second, if
Yeah,
you could ask any musician that are alive, whatever you wanted to ask them, who would you ask what?
I would probably ask Curtis Mayfield, who is such an anomaly. He left the Impressions. He was pissed off at his label screwing him over. He started his own label, Black Man 1970, produced his own albums, started his own label. He was one of the only pop artists to have these songs that had essentially a funk soul rock band at the core, but had string section and horns.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it didn't get like schlocky. It wasn't too much. And I would probably just ask him like, when you listen to some of the tracks like Move On Up or like, you know, whatever, like where did you start? You know, did you start in the core and then work your way out, or did you have the whole vision for the whole thing at once and reverse engineer it? Or, you know, like I would probably really pick his brain about the craft of songwriting.
Yeah, I love that because I think everyone has such a different form of working on a song and writing a song. So I think it's an interesting question for sure. So this is the last question about the past, and we're going to move on to the now. But what was the most surprising thing in a positive way? Because a lot of very surprising things have happened in the last few months that has happened to you in the last year, let's say.
Um, let's see. The most surprising thing, man, it was probably like kind of back to back playing with two of my biggest heroes. Um,
And who was that?
at the annual Allman Family Revival shows that we do, they keep growing every year. And this year, one of the guests that did the three shows with us in San Francisco, Denver, New York, was Robin Zander of Cheap Trick. So it was like full circle moment. I got to sing, you know, your mom is all right, your dad is all right, with the guy from my first concert. Like,
Yes, that's like,
and
oh.
yeah, it's amazing. And then, you know, equally as super cool was Robbie Krieger from The Doors joining our band on stage and doing a couple Doors songs in
Oh,
LA.
so enough about the past. Let's talk about the present. What is currently on your mind the first thing when you wake up in the morning?
Health. I think that as I get older, you know, it's really weird. In my 20s, I was really a good boy. I got married really young. I didn't do drugs. I didn't drink. Um, you know, and then in my 30s, I made up for that. Uh, and I never got involved in drugs. I never tried hard drugs in my life, but you know, I'd go out drinking with my buddies and eating crappy food and, you know, not exercising and blah, 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 blah. And now, you know, being in the mid 40s, I'm like, well, you know, I guess when we're younger, we think, you know, I don't want to get old, you know, I'm fine to check out at 60 or 65. And I think when you get older, you're like, well, yeah, I want to hang out as long as I can. So I think the first thing in the morning is you know what, you know, and it takes like consciously, cognizantly going, you know, how do I need to stay on track today? And I
Yeah.
feel like I'm getting better, but it's a daily thing, you know.
So do you have a morning routine? Like, is there something that you do, like drink a juice, or what do you do for staying healthy?
Yeah, I mean, I do a 30-minute power walk at 5:45 a.m. And then I hit another walk about 7:30 with my puppy.
Can we see him real quick?
Hi. Do you want to say hi? Come here and say hi. Come here and say
Hi, Franklin. Oh, hello. Oh my
says
God.
hello. I'm really nappy right now.
So adorable. We were at morning routine. You said you do a power walk and you walk
Yeah.
with Franklin.
And I walk with him. I try and do straight celery juice, which we've discussed in a
Yep.
previous life.
That was basically my favorite line of the interview was when I asked you guys 3 terms to describe the music industry back then and now, and you said green juice, yoga, and Indian food, and I loved it.
All right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Is there something that nobody knows about you that you are willing to tell us right now? A little fun fact.
Wow. Maybe a couple people know this. When I was a freshman in high school in study hall, which was the period of class where you would just sit there and do your homework, and it wasn't a real class, with a needle and thread and Indian ink, I gave myself my first tattoo.
No way! Oh my God!
Yeah.
Which one is it? Can we see?
And it was, and I'm not showing it.
Okay.
Because it's not visible.
Okay. That makes sense.
But I'll tell you what it was. Because when I was a freshman in high school, this was the shit. I was 14 and I drew the Van Halen logo, the VH.
Oh wow!
About the size of a quarter.
Yeah.
Right there, and when you do it that way, you take the needle. Here we go. Like anybody that wants to give themselves a tattoo, you take the needle and you wrap the thread all the way around it, except the last couple millimeters of the point.
Okay. Yeah.
And dip it in the Indian ink, and you puncture the skin. It leaves a dot.
Yeah.
So you got to give yourself about 500 dots.
That sounds so painful.
And I just went ding, ding.
Oh my God.
In study hall, in school, and people are like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Give myself a tattoo." Like it became kind of a thing, and then like 10 of us did it.
So an influencer back then already.
Yeah, later in life, but just a few years later, I was out with my dad. I was when I turned 18. So 4 years later, my dad was like, "Hey, you're turning 18. What do you want for your birthday?" And I'm like, "My first real tattoo, like so I can cover this."
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I feel that. That is really funny. I wish someone would have filmed it. Now I want to talk a little bit about your guys' music. So your debut album, Down to the River, has this really unique and earthy sound that we already talked about in our last interview. And like you said earlier, I feel like music doesn't only like touch you, like it's not only a sonic experience. Sometimes I almost feel like I can feel it, I can taste it, I can see it, So if your album was a dish, how would it taste like?
Down to the River would taste like Southern fried chicken, and potatoes and gravy, and collard greens and corn on the cob, and cornbread and sweet tea.
Oh my God, that makes me hungry.
I know.
So which ingredients did you switch up for the second record, you would say, bless your heart?
The overall tonality and everything is similar, but the two main components that didn't necessarily change but matured was the songwriting team and the band itself. So going into the second record, as opposed to the first, the band had never really played together. Now the band's going to make a record. We played 200 live shows. So very well-oiled machine at that point. The songwriting team, the first time around, me and Dwayne and Stahl Vaughn, getting to know each other, feeling each other out, don't want to upset a guy if you don't like his idea, don't want to, and on this record, it's like, fuck, that sucks. It was like easy, like, no, man, that title blows. Let's name it this. And you could get to this vibe of this songwriting triangle where dudes didn't get hurt. They didn't get butt hurt because their shit wasn't picked. They were like, yeah, okay, cool. Beat it. What do you got? And it became a real level of trust, and we knew like who was better at what. So we would turn to Stahl for this, or they would turn to me for that. So another well-oiled machine of trust. And so I'd say the number one thing that changed was when we wrote specifically the song Pale Horse Rider. It was unconventional for two reasons. Number one, the chorus has no words. The chorus is, ah, that's the chorus, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's catchy and it worked. And I thought, oh, I'm going to come back and drop some words in there, and then we'll call the song that. Well, it just never, it didn't work. And I was like, so
it didn't need the words there. Yeah.
it didn't need the words. And then it kind of would careen off into this weird guitar harmony thing, and then back to the chorus with no words. And then and I stopped the three of us right there, and I said, this is telling us something, that on this record we don't need to follow a conventional verse, bridge, chorus format. Let's truly let the songs reveal themselves, let the songs go where they want to go. We don't need to direct it. Musically, it's going to unfold. And man, I'm so glad that we got to a level of cognizance to say, you know, this doesn't have to be 3 minutes and 35 seconds and verse, bridge, chorus, verse, bridge, chorus. Like, it could be verse, 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 guitar solo, chorus, chorus out. And like, if it feels right. So we trusted the flow in the feel.
Yeah, so you went with your gut. That sounds, and that's what music is a lot of times, is very intuitive. So that sounds really good, and I'm really excited for it to come out, for everyone to be able to listen to it. Talking about albums and music, if your life was an album, what would the title be?
Wow. If my life was an album, God, I mean, it would have to have the highest highs, the most heartbreaking lows. It would have to have all kinds of exploration.
I love it.
It would have to have, you know, pensive moments and just bombastic. I mean, I don't.
It sounds like a roller coaster, or like a great mixture of all the
like Zeppelin 4 or something. I don't know, you know. I don't know. That's a fantastic question, you know.
Yeah, well, we'll think about that. You're gonna come up with one, but I like the description already. It sounds very interesting, experimental. Do you have a favorite book that you say that you read that changed your life?
I always come back to, and it's so cheesy and new agey, but like the just the core, like the common denominator of the wisdom that is kind of inherent is that Eckhart Tolle Power of Now, like about, you know, and it's so, you know, in line with kind of the Buddhist kind of philosophies, which is really kind of the only spiritual thing that I really can, you know, vibe with.
Yeah. Do you have a motto or a phrase that you live by?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always said the few things, you know, and especially being a father, you know, and to teach my son is, you know, don't half-ass anything. Always give a shit about everything. You know, put your heart into it, care about it, you know, and make it count. Make the moment count. You know,
Yeah.
don't just take it for granted, because, you know, if you do, you'll never get that moment back, you know. So try and make everything, you know, mean something.
We're coming to the last two questions. One question, I mean, we're all in this weird quarantine. No one knows what's going to happen, slowly opening back up. You are located in St. Louis, you said, right?
Yeah.
Is everything open there? And what's like the first thing that you did after everything opened back up? Or what is the first thing you're excited to do when everything is back to
I
normal?
went to my favorite restaurant, and I had this lemon butter halibut and risotto,
Mm.
and this craft cocktail that was like cucumber and high end tequila. That's the very first thing we went and did. And then I went and saw a buddy of mine who used to play in a previous band of mine play in like a, you know, wasn't a true like venue. It was more, it was like a pizza joint that
Mm.
holds a couple hundred people. And it was really neat to hear the boom of a bass guitar and a drum kit live again. It had been a few months. So here in St. Louis, everything's open.
So my last question for today is, what makes you smile at the moment?
You know, it's a beautiful universe that we live in. I think that, you know, going through something as monumental as this, you know, as this virus really has revealed a lot of things. So again, that's kind of with the Buddhist kind of philosophy, is that you cannot grow without pain. Um, so, you know, to not get political, but just to deal with some of the current events, you know, the death of George Floyd, you know, these things were happening pretty regularly, but it took everyone kind of being stuck in their homes and really, you know, vibing with themselves to go, wait,
Yes.
like, this is where we draw the line. And obviously you're seeing the fallout from that. So that's a really beautiful repercussion of a shitty situation like this virus, is that you know, the atmosphere is healing, the skies are clearing, people are awakening, they're wise, you know, getting wiser, they're speaking out.
Yeah.
um, and you know, that does make me smile. Change makes me smile. You know, we have to always be progressive. We have to, you know, you can't snap your fingers and be done with war and evil and greed and all of these negative aspects of human life, but you can try a little bit and spread a little love and watch it get that little bit better, you know.
Very, very well said. I think it's very true. I also go by the Buddhist saying, no mud, no lotus. So suffering is definitely part of life. And also what you say, that people are actually looking inside and understanding that what has been going on for so long has to stop, and we need to use our voice. So I think that you said that very well, and I don't even need to add to it.
I was out for my morning walk this morning, and uh, four people that I passed, and I only passed four, said good morning.
That is different. Yeah.
6 months ago, one out of the four would have said good morning, and it probably would have been an elderly person, because it's like, I guess at the end of your ride, you just get it, you know, and you just spread love and kindness, you know. But every single person said good morning, and I was just like,
Mm.
now that's what I like, you know.
That's the connection. That's the human connection that we now realize also that we're missing. So yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for joining us today
of
for the
course.
BMG Rapid Fire. That was a lot of fun, and I feel like we got to know you a little more, and all the things that your fans are probably burning to know. So we're excited for the new album, the new single, and everything to come. The new single is actually going to drop, and when this comes out, it's going to be out there. So yeah, and I hope to see you guys live somewhere soon when all of this is over.
Oh God, get me out there. Can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you.